challenged to repeat a presentation that I gave before. So I have a great money-saving tip for you all, especially headed into the holidays as we're thinking about shopping for our loved ones. What better way to save hundreds, if not thousands of dollars? What is this scheme that Corey is trying to sell you on? Car maintenance. It's not as scary as you think. What's underneath there? Under those shiny hoods, I don't want to imagine what's under there. Michael Myers with a kitchen knife might be waiting for me, right? Better, let's just stick gas in the side of these things and not think too much about what's underneath there. But if you open it up, it's not as scary as you think. It's only full of large, expensive parts that cost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to replace if you break them. But it's not that bad. If you get in and you look at specific items in there and break it down, it's not too overwhelming. So I have some tips for car maintenance and ways to save yourselves money. There's some great do-it-yourself ideas. I have some tips for completing your projects, and ultimately I have a great example of how I saved a lot of money. Some great do-it-yourself ideas are regular maintenance. Change your oil and filter. The old-fashioned way with the old traditional conventional oils is about 3,000 miles and then change your filter every 2 oil changes. But with the new synthetics, you can often get as many as 10,000 miles or more. But check your car's recommendations and the oil's recommendations. I've changed the drive belts on both mine and Nancy's cars. I've changed the spark plugs on both of our cars. Spark plugs is where I save the greatest money so far on car maintenance, and with varying difficulty on our cars, as you'll get a chance to see. And then finally, one of the easiest things that there's really no excuse that we all can't do ourselves is to change the engine filter and maybe even the cabin air filter as well. So, how do we know that our car needs work? We want to regularly check our fluids to make sure that our fluids are good and fully topped off. We want to rotate and balance our tires. If we take it in and we have somebody look at our tires, even if we're unfamiliar with it, they can alert us if the tires are wearing unevenly, if we might want to think about replacing them. And then that big thick book that we get with our car that nobody really wants to read through all of that. It's so much information. Maybe it's just a little bit of the fun infotainment stuff that's in there. It's fun to play with the gadgets, but there's actually a lot of great maintenance information in that manual, especially towards the back of it. It'll tell you the recommended schedule of maintenance for the entire life of the vehicle. And it'll give you important information like how much oil you should put in, what type of oil, and other specific information for your car. And then have an annual mechanic checkup with a mechanic that you trust. It can be a little scary to find a mechanic that you feel isn't giving you the runaround and just trying to sell you work, but Nancy has found a great mechanic in Lenexa that we love to take our cars to and have good candid chats with, and he appreciates that I am interested in this as well and like to do maintenance myself. So we work together and he helps us save money and we're happy to give him business. So to check your fluids, look for all the tanks. A lot of them have colorful caps and you can find them all around the car. Example here they are in mine, and a lot of them are see-through to where you can actually see in the side of the tank and see if your liquid is within the right range. Again, Nancy's are very similar. They stand out. Those bright yellow caps draw your attention to where you should be checking. So this is an example of what your manual might look like for your scheduled maintenance. This is a page towards the back of my manual, and it tells me at 15,000 miles, I should be doing each of these checklist items. So even if these feel a little over your head for doing yourself, you can be an informed consumer when you take your car to the mechanic and say, this is what my car is recommended to have at 15,000 miles. Please check these boxes, check all these things for me. And then this is what I was saying, you'll typically have tables which give you information on the volume and the type of oil and other fluids that are important to your vehicle. All of the service manuals can actually be found online for the most part. With just a little bit of hunting in Google, people have pretty well loaded PDFs of everything. So you can get nice exploded diagrams. This is what I use when I change the spark plugs on my SUV, as well as, oh yeah, on my, this one's also my SUV. So it tells you how to take it apart, and importantly, how to torque it back down so it doesn't fall apart on the road when you're driving down. So the big way I saved money was changing the spark plugs on my car in particular, but also Nancy's car. This is where I say it's varying degrees of difficulty. Nancy's, 1, 2, 3, 4, right there, couldn't be easier. There's easy to pull them out and change them. On mine, they're buried under here. There's 6 of them, and I had to take off the whole top of the engine to actually get to them, which is intimidating, but you look at those kind of step-by-step processes, and it's not too bad. So I actually had to take my SUV for a recall check to the Nissan dealership. And while I was there, they were happy to quote me all these additional services that they were happy to sell me. And so for some of the Nissan dealership quotes that they gave me, to change my drive belt would be $150, change my oil, $60, but the big one, spark plugs, over $500 to change my plugs, for a total of $750 for their work. Whereas when I did it, everything is more reasonable if you source it yourself. I didn't even have the tools that I needed. I was still able to buy the tools, to the torque wrench, the multimeter, to perform the work, which only cost me $235. And even after buying tools I got to keep and use later, I saved over $500 of what the dealership would have charged me. That's a real humdinger of a savings, if you ask me. All of these great tools now are in my toolbox, and I get to use again. So then, the simplest thing, hopefully, that each of you can do is check and change your engine filter. A lot of times when you take it into like a Jiffy Lube to get your oil changed, the mechanic might bring your filter out, plop it down, and show you how dirty it is and encourage you to buy a new one. They're really not too expensive and easy to clip off and replace yourself. So you can do it yourself, you can find tips online, and you can save a lot of money and have some great satisfaction with family while you do it. Thank you.